The ceasefire is signed. Iran said ships can pass. So 800 tankers should be moving through the Strait of Hormuz right now. They are not. Last night, Kuwait reported 28 Iranian drone strikes. After the ceasefire, oil facilities, power stations, water plants all hit on day one. And this morning, 2 ships transited the strait. 2. The normal number is 110 per day. There is a reason the other 798 are still waiting, and it has nothing to do with Iran. Here's what Trump posted. The ceasefire requires the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the strait. His White House press secretary added one more condition on April 8. No tolls. The strait opens without limitation, including tolls. Here's what Iran's foreign minister posted. Ships will receive safe passage via coordination with Iran's armed forces. Look at those two phrases side by side. Complete and immediate opening versus our armed forces coordinate who passes. Those are not the same thing. And there is one word in Iran's version that I read 3 times when I found it. Iran said they forced the US to accept their conditions. Not agreed, not negotiated, forced. Iran's parliament speaker is already accusing the US of violating 3 clauses of the 10-point plan, less than 24 hours after the announcement. 2 sides posted about the same ceasefire. They described 2 different agreements. At least one of them is telling their people something that is not accurate. But this did not start yesterday. To understand why this ceasefire is this fragile, you need to see what it cost both sides to get here. The US bill. On April 4, 2026, an F-15 was shot down over Iran, the first American fighter jet lost in this war. The pilot ejected and was recovered within hours. The weapon systems officer was not. Imagine you are the colonel. It is the evening of April 4, 2026. You have just ejected from a burning aircraft over Iranian terrain. Your parachute opens in the dark above the Zagros mountains. You land hard. You are injured. No radio, no GPS. Somewhere below you, Iranian forces are searching. You do the one thing you can. You start climbing. 7,000 feet along the ridgeline. You find a crevice in the rock face. You crawl inside and you wait. What followed was not a rescue. It was a production. The CIA ran a deception campaign inside Iran, feeding Iranian intelligence false information that both crew members had already been found and the extraction was complete. That bought time. SEAL Team 6 was airdropped into Iranian territory. Airstrikes pushed Iranian ground forces away from the area. 2 US Special Operations aircraft were deliberately destroyed on the ground and left behind so they could not be traced. The colonel came out after 38 hours. He is safe. Think about what that bill looks like. 155 aircraft, hundreds of special forces operating inside a sovereign nation, a CIA disinformation operation run against Iranian intelligence, 2 aircraft burned and abandoned on enemy soil, for 1 person. I'm not saying it was the wrong call. I'm saying that is the cost. And when the cost of a single rescue looks like that, both sides start doing a different kind of arithmetic. Iran's bill. On April 7, 2026, the day the ceasefire was announced, a Revolutionary Guard general went on national television and told parents to send their children to stand in front of Iran's power plants. On that same afternoon, the Israeli military posted on social media, "Do not ride trains. Do not stand near railway lines. Your presence will endanger your life." One side calling on parents to use their children as shields. The other announcing it would target civilian infrastructure. Same afternoon, both sides. That is the moment the ceasefire became possible. Not the diplomacy, not the deadline. The moment when both sides looked at what the following week would require, and neither could say yes to it. Understanding why the ceasefire happened is not the same as understanding what it actually changed. Here is the number that shaped every analyst's forecast, every government briefing, and every news article for 6 weeks. Before the war, 110 to 120 ships transited the straits every single day. During the war, the number fell to around 6 per day. That 6 is wrong. I went through every source I could find on this before recording. The most important thing I found was not a new number. It was a researcher who actually went and looked. A Wall Street firm called Citrini Research did something most institutions never do. They did not model the strait from a desk in Manhattan. They sent an analyst there. He carried $15,000 in cash, a camera with 150 times optical zoom, sunglasses with a recording device built in, a speedboat with no GPS. He positioned himself 18 miles from the Iranian coastline. Revolutionary Guard drones were overhead. Iranian patrol boats were in the distance. What he found? Ships were moving, not 6 per day, closer to 15, and half of them were completely invisible to the official tracking system. Running dark, no signal, some were spoofing their GPS coordinates. Others changed their ownership registration mid-voyage to appear flagged to a neutral country. The strait was never 90% closed. It was a checkpoint. Get approval from the right people, pay, pass. The analyst was detained by Oman's Coast Guard on the return trip. His phone was confiscated. His photos were gone. He delivered an 8-hour briefing from memory. When I found this, I stopped and reread it twice. The number that moved oil markets for 6 weeks, that informed emergency government meetings, was built on data missing roughly half the actual picture. Now here is today's update. Since the ceasefire was announced, 2 ships have transited the straits. A Greek on-bulk carrier crossed at 8:44 UTC on April 8, 2026. A Liberian flag vessel went through earlier that morning. 2 ships in 24 hours, against a normal of 110 per day. 800 ships are still in the Gulf. If this breakdown is useful, hit like and subscribe. I go this deep every week. The reason the other 798 are not moving is not what most coverage is telling you. Iran can say ships may pass, but a ship owner will not move a $120 million tanker without insurance, and insurance companies have their own answer to the ceasefire. When the war started on February 28, 2026, the world's major marine insurance clubs pulled their coverage for the Persian Gulf. Guard, Scoot, North Standard, the London P&I Club, they did not raise their prices. They pulled out completely, with as little as 48 hours notice. The reason? Their own reinsurers had already left. No reinsurer means no policy. No policy means the ship stays in port. New policies appeared at 10 times the previous rate. Before the war, insuring a $120 million tanker for one transit cost roughly $40,000. That same policy now costs between $600,000 and $1.2 million per trip, renewed every 7 days for a single voyage. Picture that, more than $1 million just to be covered for one crossing, before fuel, before crew, before cargo. Here is how insurance companies update their risk models, not on announcements, on evidence. They need sustained, uneventful transit over time before their numbers move. A ceasefire statement is not the evidence. 10 days of ships passing without incident is evidence. The strait has to prove itself before Lloyd's moves. Iran has one key to the door. London has another. The ceasefire addressed one of them. And now there is a third problem. named publicly in the last 24 hours. Trump's White House said on April 8, 2026, that the ceasefire requires the strait to open without limitation, including tolls. Iran had been planning to charge approximately $2 million per ship per transit. Oman, which appeared in earlier reports as also planning fees, has since said it has no plans to charge. Iran has not publicly confirmed it will drop the toll. I want to know what you think. Do you believe the strait returns to genuinely free passage after the Islamabad talks? Or is it the new normal where every ship that passes pays Iran to use the world's most important oil land? Tell me in the comments. I will be reading them. 3 gatekeepers: Iran's approval, insurance companies' risk models, and now a public name dispute about whether passage is free or paid. The ceasefire addressed none of these 3 completely. That is why 2 ships have moved and 798 are still waiting. Here is what I'm personally watching over the next 14 days. Not the Islamabad talks, not any government statement. The actual ship count through the strait from independent trackers, Kepler and Vortexa. When that number sustains above 80 ships per day for 5 consecutive days, the ceasefire is real on the water. Everything before that is a press release. But the strait is only the most visible part of what this war has already done, because this conflict reached inside parts of your portfolio that have nothing to do with oil. I am recording this on April 9, 2026. The Islamabad talks starts tomorrow. Whatever comes from them, what I'm about to show you does not depend on those talks. These numbers are already done. Germany, the world's 4th largest economy. Its 2026 growth forecast was cut in half, from 1.3% down to 0.6%. 100,000 German jobs are expected to disappear this year. The government deficit climbed to 4.2% of GDP. Here's why a war 5,000 kilometers away ended up in a German factory. Germany shut down its nuclear power plants after Fukushima in 2011. It lost its Russian pipeline gas in 2022. It replaced both with LNG, liquefied natural gas, shipped in tankers from the Gulf. That LNG travels through the Straits of Hormuz. Germany entered 2026 with gas storage at 46 billion cubic meters. 2 years earlier, that number was 77 billion. Chemical and steel companies have already added surcharges of 30% on their products. A German government minister is now publicly calling for nuclear power to be restarted. That decision takes a decade to implement. 3 energy crises in 4 years, each one with a smaller buffer than the last. If you own any European equity fund, this is already inside it. Japan gets 90% of its crude oil from the Middle East, almost all of it through the strait. South Korea gets 70%. These are the world's 3rd and 12th largest economies, both running on energy that now passes through a checkpoint Iran controls. And now, the one that stopped me when I found it. Qatar produces roughly 1/3 of the world's helium. Helium is not just a party balloon gas. It comes out as a byproduct when you process natural gas. It has no substitute in semiconductor manufacturing. It cools the chambers where computer chips are built. Without it, chip production slows. Iranian strikes hit 2 of Qatar's LNG facilities during this war. Those strikes wipe out 17% of Qatar's LNG export capacity. Repairs will take 3 to 5 years. HP, Dell, Lenovo, Acer, and Asus have already warned their enterprise clients to expect price increases of 15 to 20% in the second half of 2026. If you own any semiconductor company, any AI infrastructure stock, or any broad market index fund with technology exposure, this war is already inside your portfolio. Not through oil, through a gas most people had never thought about before this week. The ceasefire changes the headline. It does not change 3 to 5 years repair timeline on Qatar's helium facilities. 3 things I'm watching. The ship count through the strait from independent trackers, not press releases. Sustained traffic above 80 ships per day for 5 consecutive days is the signal the ceasefire is real on the water. Whether Iran publicly confirms it is dropping the toll demand or quietly reinstates it after the Islamabad talks end, Trump said no tolls. Iran has not said that publicly. The first ship that pays, or the first Iranian statement confirming free passage, tells you which version of the ceasefire actually won. Qatar's helium output over the next 6 months. It will not make front pages, but if LNG facility repairs stall, the semiconductor story outlasts this war by years. Right now, 800 ships are sitting in the Persian Gulf, fully loaded, waiting to find out if this ceasefire is what the market has already decided it is. If Iran has established that nothing passes through the world's most important oil land without its permission, and the world is beginning to accept that, what does that cost us permanently? If this breakdown was useful, subscribe to my channel. I track this every week.